Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dave Thompson. I'd like to invite you back to and welcome you back to our Civil Human Bible study today. I'm a civil human minister, and what that means is that I focus my ministry on building human peace and common ground. And so the way that I'm approaching the scriptures today is twofold, really. The first one is that I want to be human. And so I'm trying to look at the scriptures for those teachings that I believe are applicable across the board to every human. And the second thing is I want to be civil. And so that means I want to respect those shared basic human needs that we all have, like the need to believe what we want to about our creed, the need to be independent from the control of others, the need to vote for those who will have control over us, the need to intimately love a person of our own choosing, and also the need to live and to live our life the way that we want to. So today we're continuing in the book of Matthew, chapter 13 now. Last show we talked about the story of the sower, the farmer who put his seeds out, and that the enemy came and threw the weeds seeds in also. Today we're going to be talking about another parable, and that's a story that Jesus uses to communicate a truth or a concept to people. These stories are actually two of them today, and they're basically talking about the same thing, but just a little bit different perspective on it. These two stories are about the seed of a mustard seed, and that means it's the smallest seed that is possible and will grow into the largest bush. And the second one is about yeast and how it works its way into the whole batch. And so let's go ahead and jump into the text today. That's Matthew chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds, but when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches." Another parable he spoke to them, "The kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which is yeast, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till it was all leavened." They seem like pretty simple verses, right? I mean, it's just a couple of words, but the things that are shared here in this principle is actually pretty important and powerful for us today, 2,000 years removed. So first of all, I want to say I'm so happy to have my family in the studio today, and maybe we'll encourage my dad to read from the Bible this tomorrow, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. But right now, I want to talk about these verses and this important concept of the mustard seed and of yeast or leavening. So let me talk a little bit first about the kingdom of heaven. So this is a phrase we've talked about a number of times, but I just want to highlight what Jesus means when he's talking about this phrase. So when Jesus says kingdom of heaven, to these ancient people who see all of the powerful things, all of the unexplained things of life are all in the heaven to them. The sun, the moon, the stars, everything that controls their lives lives up in the heavens. And when Jesus suggests a kingdom, he's speaking in a language that they can understand by saying this new concept, this new society or community is based upon the teachings that come from heaven. And so now he's going to give us a couple of stories to help us understand what this society, this kingdom, this idea is about and how it works. So the first thing that he does is he gives us this parable about the mustard seed, right? So it's important to note, in this ancient world, mustard is one of the few things that they've got to grow. They've got wheat and other forms, other seeds that they can grow as well. But what's unique about the mustard seed is that it is the tiniest little seed. And if you've ever seen it, it is a small seed. But what's unique about the mustard seed is it grows up to become the biggest bush and even tree-like when it comes to full maturity. And that's unique among all the seeds. In that the rest of them, they'll grow up, but they're not quite as large as the mustard seed. And then we get this weird sort of comment from Jesus about the fact that the birds come and nest in the trees. There's a whole lot of speculation about what that means. I'll throw a couple of those out there here real quick. One thought is that these birds represent the people who may not agree with the kingdom of heaven or may not be a part of it, but nonetheless, they are welcome to sit on the branches and to enjoy the benefits of it. The second thing, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means for us 2,000 years removed. The second thing is this idea of leavening or yeast. And I know, we had this COVID, we're having it still right now, but remember when it first started, everybody was baking bread? That was like the new thing to do. I guess because everybody bought out the store's flour supply and toilet paper, which was kind of obnoxious. But nonetheless, people started baking bread. And they had to learn a lot about yeast and how it works and how it grows. It's this live culture that when we introduce it into a sugar-based entity, flour contains a sugar, and it eats the sugar and expels gas. And this gas basically causes the bread to rise up while it's cooking. So we get that lift and get the sponge-like soft quality of the bread. So what's the point here? Jesus suggesting that this yeast goes throughout the whole bread. What's interesting is that the amount of flour that's used here is a pretty healthy amount. It might be, about 6 cups of flour, which is a lot of flour to put into baking something. What in the world do these mean? Right? What are these parables about? 2,000 years removed, they are about the exact same thing. The first one that I want to point out, the mustard seed, right? It's the smallest possible seed, and yet it grows into the biggest possible bush. Jesus, in this amazing parable, is pointing out that even the smallest of virtues and of ideas can grasp a hold and grow into something that can create an entire society and can move society. Those of you who are familiar with the teachings of Jesus and history of our world, the simple teachings of Jesus, these basic virtues that he puts out there of how to be happy and have a happy life, to be compassionate, to be a peacemaker, to be long-suffering, to be humble. These virtues, when they are planted, even in the most small amount of our society, can reap a tremendous reward. They will grow and grow. We don't even have to worry about it. All we have to do is plant this tiny little seed, and it will grow on its own. And in this point, I just want to reiterate to you, I know this world is chaotic right now, and there's a lot of people saying a lot of negative things, but I want to encourage you, be one of the people who plant those seeds, who say something about what they believe, who talk about peacemaking, or who talk about compassion. That small idea will yield an incredible reward that you may never see, but nonetheless, it is there and it will work its way. The second thing, and this is I want to close on, is the story of the yeast. So what is so important about yeast and the fact that it works its way through the dough? Well, I think Jesus is making a point here to say that these good deeds that we do, these virtues that we practice, they have a way of working themselves throughout the entire of society. It may seem like our little tasks, our little good deeds, are making peace between coworkers, sitting next to us. These seem insignificant and small, but they're not. They have a huge impact, and that impact will have an impact on somebody else, and somebody else will have an impact on them. This good deed, these virtues, when we put them out there, they will work their way throughout the rest of society. And so I know that everybody's stressed right now. I'm overwhelmed with all the negativity and all the bad language and everything that's happening around us. But I want to encourage you, if you're in line at Starbucks in the drive-thru, offer to pay for somebody behind you. If you're, stuck in a supermarket and you notice somebody's short a couple dollars, pay for their groceries if you can. Do whatever you can to put these virtues out there so that they will combat all of the negativity, that they will produce a tremendous reward and work their way throughout society. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this Bible study with me. It's been such a huge and personal growth for me, and I know many of you who've messaged me and told me that it's been also encouraging for you, and I appreciate that. And those of you who want to include a comment or reflection on this conversation today, please do so in the comments below. We really appreciate that because it helps everybody learn. And until tomorrow, live noon on Facebook, I want to say to you that I love you. And I hope that you choose to love yourself. It's the only love in this world that we have any control over. And now I invite you to join me as we go about the rest of our day, loving our neighbors the same way. Thank you.